performance that might need some shaking up. Not his fault, but they put him on Fiora. So subbing out for the main starter here from Ixo. We might see some Kled, a pick that allowed Jin Air to beat Longzhu, a team that did hold their own against SKT in one of the greatest games of League we've had. Maybe in the last couple of years. It was an exceptional game. So I love this substitution. I actually expected Ixu to have been the starter, but we will get him this time around, and maybe he'll breathe some new life into Jin Air when they take away maybe the Galio. Fingers crossed. Can we see Galio getting taken away? We can go to game 3 without any Galio.
I hope so.
And have a real...
Speaking about what Ixu has played here, he's played 2 games of Kled, 2 of Jace, 2 of Sejuani, 1 of Gragas, 1 of Jarvan, and he's 2-0 on both Sejuani and Jace. Those might be focus picks for the new player coming in here for Jin Air.
Now the Thresh ban does make some sense on blue side for Jin Air. The Lee Sin, making sure that does not have that pick. Capable of getting multi-man kicks with consistency is something that can do, and makes Lee Sin a powerful threat in team fights, which is not something that typically the champion is known for. So making sure that it's not there, as the variables to account for Lee Sin are too many when it's in the hands of a powerful player. And speaking of recognizing power, KT recognized that Galio is the most broken champion in the game right now, and they banned it away.
I think that means that MT, if he wanted, he could potentially get Elise here, because you could ban something else, maybe, I don't know, the Rumble against Smeb, and then KT's forced to ban Zac, and then you open up something like Elise for you. It seems like, because we haven't really seen MT on Elise too much, they're just going to take that away. Looking for another pick.
But Jin Air is a team that, with the jungle pool being taken away, at least the strongest junglers right now, they don't have issues with taking other matchups. They did try their hand at the Jarvan with some success, even though it did come at a loss in that Jarvan jungle game. They can play other champions, and I think they'll prioritize lane power here. We might see that Caitlyn being taken away early on. However, her resurgence has been at the hands of teams trying to survive to the later stages in the game. That's why Varus and Ashe are the 2 most played AD carries, and instead we will get that Graves coming out of
He looks devastated.
Whoa.
He's like, God damn it, I have to play this terrible champ. But yeah, that's a very interesting first pick, and that went down to the wire. I don't know if that's the best pick that Jin Air could have hoped for.
There is Kha'Zix still available, which we can see likely to come out from Score, also Gragas in the jungle, but we're touching about the AD carries. Varus, Ashe were the 2 most contested, most picked champions in the LCK, I believe was the stat that we had 3 days ago. And now with Varus and Ashe, the reason why these champions are so important is because the mid-game, their ability to make picks and fight and take advantage of people getting out of position is so invaluable that it lets you control the tempo, which is not something that Caitlyn does. Caitlyn really relies on making sure that you hit your item spikes, that you farm and you are safe and protected. So it doesn't open up the map for the Caitlyn player to make any plays happen. And so Jin Air are not going to commit to it. They'll take the Graves, and Kled making sure that they lock this pick away means that top lane will have some pressure, or at least not as susceptible to being backed off from a turret such as a Fiora last time around.
Yeah, I do like that pick for Ixu. New player coming in here to sub in for the top lane. But again, they did give Smeb his Rumble. I am definitely a little bit worried about that for Jin Air. He showed some pretty sick equalizers up against MVP. Another pick that we've seen be picked a ton of times here is Xayah. Not as much as the Varus and the Ashe, but definitely seeing some play.
It's an entertaining champion, to say the least. She's quite exciting to watch when you see her ultimate come through and dodge out of however many abilities. She can time it out, as it does make her untargetable during that time. But the Syndra does slip through, and Pawn gets to lock that in, and now they have access to banning out solo lanes here for KT, so they can really pigeonhole Jin Air as to what they want to deal with in this Syndra matchup. Most likely we'll see maybe Orianna, or actually it's going to be a LeBlanc ban as well. They have banned Orianna many times before, and I expect that to be the ban this time around. It is a good matchup for Syndra, However, it will open the possibility of a crazy engage between Pled's ultimate and the Shockwave.
This is 2 fan signs. The one on the left was crazy, but the one on the right was one of the players from KT had so much detail, but the other 4 players were just stick figures.
Who was the KT player?
I think it was Deft. I'm not 100% sure though.
Wow, Blitzcrank.
The Crumb solo Q ban coming through here in LCK.
I'm banning Pantheon now.
Oh.
Actually, I don't really care what I ban. I believe in Faker's philosophy. Just play against everything.
Yeah. Well, looking to ban perhaps another jungler here is Jin Air. And you mentioned 2 jungle picks that could be picked for KT. This was Kha'Zix and Gragas. They both get banned.
There's still Olaf available. I think that's where you go down the tier list. You have
How about
newly
new
changed
Rek'Sai?
new Rek'Sai. My God, you stand still and dodge out of her ultimate. Or Kindred is too volatile in relying for acquiring those stacks at spawn. While you do have the stacks dictated based on the level that you have, so the camps that they spawn, you still at the risk of it spawning in somewhere that you're not prepared to attack or not prepared to strike. And if your lanes can't help you acquire those stacks, and you're going to find yourself being really starved of those major damage boosts.
Kuzan going back to his Vladimir. We don't see this all too often, but this is definitely a Kuzan pick. And if you don't want to play Echo, you don't want to play Fizz, something like that against the Syndra, Vlad also with his pool, he can dodge that ultimate. The unleashed power from Syndra. And do like the pick there for Kuzan.
It's most likely going to be the Rakan getting locked in. Yep.
Nice.
Going to have Lovers bot lane and Blood in the mid lane. So questionable lore themes there from Jin Air. However, I'm a bit discouraged by their draft. I felt like they had more options. And yeah, the Olaf will be locked in. You really don't have anything else to go for at this stage of the game. It does make sense. You can get obnoxiously tanky when you're dealing with so many physical damage threats with Ninja Tabias that even though they did get tweaked by a 2% change, it's still a significant reduction in that physical damage. And KT's pressure early game is immense. I'm wondering what Jin Air is planning to do. They have no control over this mid lane where you have a no CC jungler and a no CC mid laner against the most heavily contested mid laner in the game.
I think Kuzan's just going to be sitting back and trying to farm.
That's exactly what happened last time around. And look
Yeah.
at what KT did. They dismantled them. They took them apart bolt by bolt. Every turbine was
ripping the
set
doors,
aside.
the windows off.
Hope they got seats in the emergency aisles, because I don't know how they're going to get past the first couple of minutes in this game. They just have the bot lane would be the pressure point for Jin Air, and something that's as telegraphed as that from the very get-go is exploitable.
Definitely is. I'm curious to see how the Olaf will work out here for score too. I mean, MT just picking up that Graves as a first pick ahead of everything else, even with the Syndra available. Just wanted to get that Graves on the Rift.
Well, Olaf is not a bad pick. He's just extremely situational, and this was the situation to do so when you have so much setup from all your lanes and you need a tank.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, guys. One final look at the compositions here before we do jump into the game. For you guys who are joining late, of course, Ixu is subbing back in, taking out Sowan. We will see that Kled once again. So let's jump into game number 2 right now between KT and the Jin Air Green Wings. Here we go.
Jin Air have to be extra cautious in this level 1. When you have Olaf, you always have to respect the threat of the undertows. Somebody ghosting at you is really scary. He does get himself low, starts wailing at you. Dangerous stuff. He's Nordic.
Sounds like you've had
He's a
nightmares
Nordic
about
guy.
this.
Oh, I make those nightmares. I always ghost in level 1.
You are the one that gives nightmares.
That's right. You know which one I like? My favorite Olaf skin too is a Pentakill one, because he is the Nordic guy, like the god of thunder, if you will. And there's this Finnish band that is metal for kids.
Metal for kids?
Yeah, they dress up as Barney, and they play metal, and children love it.
That actually sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, it's actually really good music, and it's all themes about mammoths surviving in the winter.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I wish I remembered the name. You can just Google it. Metal dinosaurs.
Level 1 fight here. The Ignite onto Death. They're going hard, forcing the Flash here out of Death just at level 1. Not even getting the knockup from the Rakan, but still going in there.
Not respecting the wait time to see what they started, and it was that W from these members. So they do at least get the Flash out, and this does open up the opportunity for a jungler that normally wouldn't have kill threat without any crazy CC to go ahead and go for an invade. He is fancying either a steal on blue buff or a gank in the bottom lane. It looks like it is going to be that gank, but KT respect it.
Yeah, they're playing way back. They know the timing for when this Graves does finish his red.
A bit of a waste of time there. At least he checks out, sees what Olaf's gank route or jungle path is. Not fancying an invade, considering he had wasted time looking for a gank.
Good ward there from the Rumble that's pushing up in top. Just getting it down.
Hates gold, misses the cannon minion. Gold hurt him as a kid, and now it's his lifelong mission to hurt it back by throwing it away.
It's always so sad to see these members missing the cannon minions.
Not much happening in the early game. I think Janair will be happy to farm it out once again when you have this many carries and a Kled that eventually will reach a point where Rumble simply cannot hold his own against him. Then later stages in the game do benefit them.
Score coming over here, already level 4, picking up Scuttle Crab. And they see exactly where Umti is. And Score has the opportunity to come on in here. He's actually going to ghost. He's going for
around
this.
the turret, or he's going for Graves?
Going for the Graves, it looks like. And, well, that's a blown ghost. Not the longest cooldown, but
that was questionable, to say the least. Not sure what he saw there. Graves can always dash over the wall. He does get.
He really wanted the Grom steal. He really wanted it.
I guess he's just showing how fast. I bet you can't run faster than me. How fast can you do your?
It's a show of strength.
Yeah.
You know, it's a morale thing. Must be. He's not eating damage, but Vlad, of course, already with some MR, just going to sustain up.
It's that Dark Seal under his belt, so he's banking on getting some action early and not dying as a result for it. Dying to Syndra as Vlad will be a tall order. You really have to mess up to die to a Syndra, especially one that isn't packing Ignite, that has team fighting summoners such as Pons with the Ghost and Flash.
Umti just coming mid seemingly to help out Kuzan, take a little bit of pressure off. Of course, as you mentioned, there's basically no kill pressure there, unless Pons diving a turret or something like that, but just pushing him back.
Another good invade, clearing out those control wards.
Uh-oh, Umti, he gets undertowed and stunned, forced to flash the wall. And there's the flash from Pawn. Actually dodging the Q is Umti, and no follow-up there, so Pawn missing that Q is not going to pick up the kill.
And not enough mana there to use more abilities from him, and it's going to be that Storm Raiders proc from Umti that allows him to get out of range and get into safety. And this mastery is so broken right now. Junglers like Kha'Zix and Graves can make the most out of it, and just when you think you've caught them, they can use it to escape or offensively as well. You face check a brush and getting out of their situation. Oh, no.
Oh,
oh
gross.
No.
But yeah, as you were saying, the Storm Raiders proc seemingly gets caught out, but nice flash over that thick wall. And then Pawn following up, and just Umti standing his ground even.
Stand and deliver. Good old Spartan Umti.
Smoking the cigar as he does.
What is the smoking age in Korea? Is it 18?
I think it's 18, yeah. Or 19 Korean age. Not 100% on that.
You got to explain that to the viewers. I don't think people know what that's about.
Well, Korean age, when you're born, you're 1 year old. You're not 0. And they also do age based on the Lunar New Year. So after that passes, you gain an age. And then after your real birthday, you also gain 1. It's kind of hard to explain.
You've confused me already,
I've
even though I
definitely
knew
confused
it.
the hell out of everyone in the chat, but it's confusing to start. So generally, when you're, you know, I'm 25 right now, but Korean age, okay, Snowflower almost dies. I'm 26, but when my birthday passes, I'll be 27. And then when the new year passes, I'll still be 27, even though I've already become 26 in, you know, real age, international age. And then once my birthday passes again, I'll be 28 Korean age.
This sounds too much like math already.
Anyway, let's get back to the game. We got MT coming up here. Smeb, he still has both of his summoners. And will he burn that flash? There it is. The flash in from Ixu does get that bear trap on a rope, and there it is, first blood with the collateral damage coming out of MT that is secured for Ixu in the top lane.
Great gank there from Sees the opportunity, uses that Storm Raider's passive to make sure that his movement speed keeps up, and most importantly, he holds onto the abilities so that Smeb flashes first, is near a wall or in a location where he can secure the damage and then goes for it. Had he used collateral damage, had he used end of the line sooner, Smeb would have likely flashed and survived. And that kind of presence of mind to know to wait for the opponent to commit to a path, to commit to a location where he's going to accept his death is imperative in securing a first blood such as this one.
Yeah, it's really good for Ixu in the top lane. You can see just getting pushed in over and over by Smeb wasn't doing wonders for his CS, as he is quite far behind the Rumble in the top lane. So going to pick up that first blood kill. Lots of gold handed on over.
And it's all from being able to find early on. The second they saw him in the bottom side of the map, he knows he can just push the Kled relentlessly, and Kled doesn't have enough kill pressure by himself in this early stage. Smeb did go with that Ninja Tabi, and he's just going to charge out of here, but he doesn't have flash.
Ooh. Yeah, he doesn't have any of his summoners, and he's being chased down by that Olaf. He needs to hit the plant, but he takes Olaf with him. Trying to jump the wall. He does! Oh. Nicely done there by Ixu on the escape. Gets away from that one, and that was a big commitment. The Ghost used from Score to try to get on top of that, and also the rotation from Pawn. At least he will pick up the blue buff.
The day you almost caught Commander Kled, he just gets away with the skin of his teeth, uses that shotgun to get over the wall, and nice little outplay. That was a 3-man commitment from KT, and now Janair respond with their own invade into this bottom side. There are no teleports, and the waves are shoved in, so it seems like the result will simply be vision and an attempt at a Gromp steal.
And we don't really talk too much about Ixu in the top lane. I mean, he's not the most flashy player, but small plays like that remind you about why they put him back in, why he is the starter for Janair. A very solid player. That's one thing you can say about him.
I think the reason was also the champion as well, the Kled. Game 1 against Longzhu looked shaky. However, in Game 3, it improved to a point where he was leading the charge in a lot of the invades, not in a lot of the engages, literally with his ultimate, as you would expect a champion like Kled to do so. And because it is that blue side, I think they had committed already to say, you know what, we know our bans, we know that we're going to go ahead and first pick this Graves. We expect KT to lock away the Rumble, considering how important it has been for Smeb, and they think, what champion do we want against Rumble? Well, let's go ahead with Kled. Who is our best Kled player, Ixu or Sohwan? They say Ixu. All right, Ixu, you're in.
And we saw Ixu actually, after pushing in the lane for the first time this game, he was looking for a potential gank down towards mid lane. You were talking about how with the Vladimir Graves combo, they don't really have too much kill pressure, but if you can get a charge in from the Kled, definitely might have an opportunity to burst down the Syndra.
You can burst her down, but with the flash and how aggressive she's playing, any attempt on killing her is going to be obvious, considering that Score is already deep in the red side jungle, so Pawn is well aware of what side a gank will be coming from, and as long as they have sight on Graves, he can continue to chip away at this turret and attempt to grow a CS lead as he's sitting at 11 CS up and a turret that's been chunked to half.
I don't think Score has won a smite fight against MT this entire game. Every single creep that I see, and all the buffs.
It's the old age. Typically, your older junglers struggle with smites against the younger players that are faster on that trigger button, trigger finger.
Well, showing in this game, if that is the case. So we're going to have to make that work a little bit better.
Lurking around, just providing some extra coverage for Pawn as he shoves out this way. It's likely that Pawn will want to base after this one as well. He's full HP, so maybe he's got some items that he wants to purchase. Sit in the brush, and there it goes. So most likely will return to the lane with his completed Morello Nomicon, and that's exactly the synergy that you don't talk about much between a jungler and a mid laner in helping each other recall. As the time when you're shoving that last wave in before you base is the time where you're most susceptible to getting ganked. That's a time where you're thinking, one more wave and I just need this extra much more gold, and you overcommit, you have an oversight in who could be ganking you at the time, but when you have Score right there, your jungler waiting for you and allows you to get that extra greed in to make sure that your recall is perfect, then you get your right item timing, and now he's back in the lane with a great item spike against Vladimir.
Look at this rotation into mid by KT. 4 members going into the mid lane, trying to push in that weakened mid turret, but an immediate response from Jinair, and so nothing happens. Even Ixu, the second they saw that, he was already making his way down into mid.
This turret's been taking slow punishment from the minions so far, so they know that if they open up a window for KT to just chip away at it, it'll likely go down quickly, and we know how much damage a mid-tier 1 going down early can cause, especially when there is a mountain dragon as our first dragon. Last game, it was that cloud dragon that didn't really amount to much, so KT focused more on the dive. So this time around, their composition drastically different. They have to look for more creative ways to approaching both Dragon and the Tier 1, as they're no longer in the blue side and no longer with pressure top, as Kled can just push and rumble. So Herald, not a viable objective for this side that they're playing in.
See Score coming down here. He's still level 8, so can't bring that scanner with him, but trying to clear out as much vision as possible in the river, preparing for that Mountain Drake. This is the pushing in that you were talking about in the top lane.
Once he has his Tiamat, and it becomes so obnoxious. He just sits there, hammers away, hacks away at the minion wave, and all you can do is sit there and try to farm. And Smeb doing a great job of last sitting and answering back. Rumble's one of those champions that, for the first couple of levels, does struggle with last hitting on their turret. Flame Spitter, the ticks on it can be difficult to manage, but an experienced Rumble such as Smeb seems to have no difficulty when it comes to last hitting on their turret on this incredibly powerful pushing champion.
Here's Score again, and the bot lane of KT. They're trying once again to push in this mid lane turret. Oh, the pull used here by Kuzan. Pawn, he was edging in on top of that turret, looking potentially for an unleashed power, but nothing happening.
It's just chip damage. Every single time they go for it, they get that turret lower and lower to the point where all they have to commit is a couple of people for one wave, and they will result in an advantage. Here they're maybe considering a Rift Herald. However, an opportunity topside might be presenting itself.
It looks like Smeb was trying to come from behind onto Ixu.
This is hilarious. Both dual lanes just following each other to the top side of the map. They're just not letting each other either go for the Rift Herald or attempt that first brick.
Yeah, I mean, KT, they want to abuse the advantage they've got early on, and Jinner wants to stop them. So everybody here in this game is on the same page.
That's one of the rarest swaps you get to see, when the dual lane swaps to the top side through walking, through the lane, not recalls, they walk to it. And so as a result, they're thinking about maybe keeping Smeb in there if they can get an aggressive move with an equalizer. And every little chunk that they have done onto this mid turret has accumulated to now Pawn legitimately being capable of taking down this turret in one more wave.
If he commits to it, though, look at all the pings coming down onto Pawn. Ixu's in a weird spot, might try to charge from the mid. decides against it, and Pawn very smartly just backs off, not taking the risk.
It's always when it's lowest, when it's most dangerous. So he recognizes that committing to that turret would have opened him up to get ganked, and giving a kill away in the matchup that he wants to maintain pressure, that he wants to team fight in very clearly with the summoners that he's gone, would mean that Vlad would be open up to controlling this lane, and that's the last thing they want. And here it is. The patience pays off, and first brick will go down to Pawn.
That's a lot of gold to give straight to the Syndra. 650 total. Gonna be a nice burst. He's already received a bunch of gold after getting that Marillanomicon too, so might be getting close to his second item here.
And that was impressive from KT. The patience they displayed in focusing down this turret was apparent, and it paid off at 17 minutes in, an early time to take a solo turret. And we know the attempt wasn't fully solo, but the gold did get split to the main magic damage from KT.
Yeah, Pawn doing very well for himself. Get that scoreboard up in just a bit. Finally, the bot lane duos return to bot. They're done roaming the map for now.
And the attempt onto the Rift Herald now. Olaf can solo it with no difficulty. Pretty much every jungler can solo the Herald. I think that's one of the biggest complaints that teams have had about it, Ambitions. He himself stated that Herald, too easy to take away, and if you ever jungle and try to solo it, I think you would agree.
Look at what Jin is trying to do, though. Empty coming down into the bottom lane, trying to take a turret, but in the meanwhile, up in top lane, Smeb has won that 1v1 fight and has successfully pushed away Ixu, so they're just going to trade 1-for-1 turrets, but also get the Rift Herald. A nice gain here for KT, but Jin still pushing in the bot lane.
Thinking about the tier 2, there is that empowered recall onto Olaf if they choose to defend. However, the wave clear between Zyra and Varus is too much to handle, as the pushing power of these short-range AD carries this early on is just not quite there.
Jin trying to get as much value out of this move as possible, looking to take the Mountain Drake. You can see some pings around the area for KT, but it doesn't look like they want to commit to this fight, so they will just give that Mountain Drake over to Jin.
So they walk away with a good objective here, and not too worried about giving away that Herald early on. It can be used to take out that bot tier 1, which isn't a meaningful objective now that the first dragon has been taken out. It will only spawn long after Herald has dissipated, and mid lane turret did go down already, which is the one that we typically see the Herald being used in. So Jin shouldn't feel too compelled to defend this turret with their lives, as both teleports are up, and the Liandry spike on Rumble is a real possibility with 2 wards being placed behind the turret.
Yeah. Look at this. Rift Herald coming out. Actually getting the interrupt onto Score, so that will not come out here.
That was a great interrupt.
That's pretty huge.
Unlike what we saw from Septed the first time we saw it in the LCK, where he gave his life on Galio as well as Flash. It's only the Rakan, while his Flash is an important tool, it doesn't seem like they're going to eye a fight out any time in the near future, as the objectives have been taken. And here comes Kled.
Jin, they want more. The teleport is coming in, but look at that huge engage on Tabata, who's actually able to flash to safety. Equalizer coming down, hitting Teddy pretty hard there. But look at Kuzan up top, trying to go 1v2, forced to flash away. And there is no kill for Jin on that engage, but they do get the teleport.
And just Summoner is blown with almost every member, and now Jin will have to concede this tower. Staying here will be a risk. They are going to consider it. There is the equalizer that is down, so they have that advantage, but the turret is low in itself. Their poke damage is going to be too much to deal with, and Teddy doesn't have mana.
Oh, Ixu, he gets locked up by too much CC right in front of the turret, nowhere to hide.
I wish they could hear me. I said to back off, Jinair.
Syndra's not even there. Now she's coming down. Pawn looking to get into this fight. The double stun. She's still got Unleashed Power going to be used onto Umti. That's going to be an easy kill. Kuzan, though, looking to trade here, will pick up the Olaf. Trying to get onto Smeb. There's a double kill. Kuzan beginning to pop off quite a bit on this Vladimir. Looking for the knock-up onto Pawn. Pawn flashed away to safety. Kuzan does remain.
And the overcommitment from KT gets punished right away, and this is exactly where the kills that Jin want are going, to the Vladimir, 2-0. If this guy gets going, Syndra's not going to be able to deal with him. The Rumble certainly will not be able to take him out, and Jin Air still with a fighting chance. They seemingly overcommit to the bottom turret, but KT answer right back and say, we want to keep this game competitive. Let's make sure that we get the best training out of this one.
You can see what happens to Ixu. Gets locked up by Zyra, and then an easy chain of corruption right after he hops off Skarl. Nowhere for him to run or hide.
But KT, they don't have a wave, so they commit to this chase now that Pawn is coming in. I believe they might have been able to only get Umti with the ultimate, and no, just going for Umti was too much. Great position there from Kuzan, seeing the opportunity, takes it right away, and with the empowered Q, finishes that kill onto Smeb.
Good dodge with the Storm Raiders too. Probably the Ghost to help out, not taking too much damage. Gets in position.
Yeah, the stacks from Vladimir are starting now. 4 stacks onto that Dark Seal, and a couple more kills will make him a real threat that has to be accounted for, that Syndra will struggle to kill.
Equalizer comes down here, but they're still going to get the turret, so worth it in the end. I suppose he picks up some of that gold, but
it is a 1-for-1 trade, but the teleport from Ixu does get committed. Nice save. They're trying to close that gold gap any way they can. This means that they're not going to be looking for any crazy fights in the near future, as Smeb's teleport will be coming up sooner than Ixu's. But overall, the way that Jin Air is playing this map is intelligent. They are taking objectives whenever they can, defending them whenever they can, not worrying too much about the upcoming minutes and saying we want gold now, and that gold is going to allow us to get to the point where we're going to feel comfortable with taking a 5-on-5, which isn't right now.
You can see KT pinging a lot in the bot lane. They really want that bot turret. It is quite low, and with Olaf, score on that Olaf coming down here to support Smeb, I think it should be an easy take. See if they commit to a kill onto Ixu, who seems to be the one that will try to defend.
He got greedy. He was going for for taking those doubles without clearing the wave. And when you clear the wave, you force your opponents to back off or commit to a position where they can get collapsed on. But without clearing the wave, then that attempt on that teleport to defend that turret goes in vain. So Jin Air needs to make their moves really speak to the holistic message that they're trying to send across in this game. If not, they'll use teleports again and again to little to no avail.
I always love looking at the minimap and seeing exactly where Ixu is on this Kled, because we've seen so many plays where a Kled is pushing the bot lane and charges into mid lane and sets up a huge dive onto a turret. And just the engage potential from the champion is always very exciting for me.
He has to be careful here. Not everybody on Jin Air can follow up on a crazy dive from a Kled charge. The biggest thing that we've seen as a tool to prevent these heavy engage comps that often come out when Galio, Kled, and Rumble are in the mix is the Stranglethorns from Zyra. A big Stranglethorns in a choke would mean that the short-range carries of Graves and Xayah are not going to be able to participate and deal damage, considering that all Score has to do is just not put himself in a position where he will be harmed, and everybody else from KT should not suffer any damage from these two members.
So we have another Mountain Drake that did spawn. You can see that for now there's not too much vision around it. Looks like Jin Air has the most, but both teams grouped up 5v5 in mid. We're going full ARAM here.
Both teams are fairly spiked. You have a Zhonya's and Leandri's completed on the Rumble. The Randuin's onto the Olaf, so he just has to watch out for Graves and Xayah. And then you have the Banshees completed on both mid laners, with their first core item being that Proto Bell, Emerald, Namikaze. So they're both powerful, but the equalizer from Smeb, we've seen how good he can lay these down, and it always makes a difference, even when the items are seemingly the same.
One forced to go down into the bot lane to push that back, as both lanes were pushing in favor of Jin Air. Jin Air not really able to find any advantage through that. In fact, I think they've taken more damage being poked out by this Rumble here, comparatively. For now, K2 will have control of the Dragon Pit.
They need to let Kuzan lifesteal off a wave, use that spell vamp, charge up his Q, and get ready to take a fight. At this HP, a fight that KT starts will go their way, and so they recognize the situation, and they're going to start this out. Kuzan does have a flanking position.
Oh, they're going on this. Okay, the charge coming on in. It will go over to KT, but can they win the fight? That Vladimir ultimate only going on to Pawn. Going to be diving on in here. The huge unleashed power, though, able to take out Xayah and Rakan almost as well. And not enough damage coming out here from Jin Air. That Rumble and the Syndra doing way too much damage across the board.
And we read it like a book. If Jin Air were to take a fight there, it's going to go KT's way. They don't have the tools to take this fight right now, especially when Umti commits to flash to try to get this steal. No chance was there for them to take a fight with the itemization and positioning that they had. We saw it coming. We had that luxury, but unfortunately they did not. And so we'll take another look at the replay here. He flashes in right away, but the follow-up here, it's Vlad with not capable of hitting anybody, and the equalizer just gets laid out. Nobody can follow through. They're over the wall, just nowhere near enough damage or a good position for the members of Jin Air, and so they get cleaned, and now KT commit to a Baron right after, and we've seen what happens when you lose a fight at Dragon so hard post 20 minutes. Teams have no reservations about going for Baron, and now there is real danger for Jin Air.
I love the positioning there from Pawn. He had all the vision in the world, but he could just sit in the tri-brush and essentially just trebuchet both the Xayah and the Rakan from the bush. Didn't even need to be close.
And he knows that Vlad doesn't have enough damage to kill him by himself at that stage. The magic resistance that is in that itemization from that Banshee's Veil, which, by the way, we failed to mention in some of the minor changes in 7.11, is that Banshees now cost 3,000 and received a minor magic resistance buff. I believe it
15.
Went from 40 to 50 now, so
45 to 60.
45 to 60, my bad. So it does even more for protecting you against these diving mages, and it keeps Syndra in a safer spot, which makes control mages that rush Banshees that much more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, look at how many items she has now. Banshee's Veil, Morellonomicon, Void Staff, and a needlessly large rod. They're going to commit to another charge. KT easily dodges that one.
No chance, and had he committed to that one, it would have likely gone KT's way again, as the follow-up would have been linear, and it's so easy to deal with when you just lay down your Strangled Thorns, lay down the Equalizer as Rumble was coming in through the bottom of the river. So luckily Jin Air's engage did not commit or connect, otherwise it likely would have died and would have lost an inhibitor as a result of it.
Yeah. At this point, Jin Air's got to be feeling pretty vulnerable. I mean, they're sitting here under turrets. They're trying to engage. Even though they don't look vulnerable, it's like, well, you can see the push now coming in from both the mid lane and the bottom lane with this Baron.
Vulnerable and frightened. Yes. As last time around, the fight went so much in KT's way, and this time they have to wonder, where is our damage going to come from? How are we going to hit the backline of KT and successfully take them down? Only two members can really commit to a charge, and that's not going to be enough when you have so many defensive summoners on the side of KT.
Chain of Corruption goes wide. Can't find Snowflower, but really just zoning at this point. Look at the crazy amount of health that Kuzan just lost there. The Equalizer comes down really nicely placed. Teddy already at half health. Jin Air just desperately trying to disengage and chip away at score. Unleashed Power does get used onto Snowflower there. Looks like only 4 orbs, so not enough damage to take him out. But again, just zoning to get them away from that inhibitor that KT does pick up once again.
This is a cool looking Xayah ultimate, but all bark and no bite, as they're too far behind to do significant damage to the members of KT, and it's only going to get worse as the backline is continuing to pile damage. Now that Deft is completed with his rapid fire cannon and the Blade of the Ruined King, looking for that Infinity Edge next, and more importantly, Olaf now has his Gargoyle Stone Plate. So how are you going to get past this, Olaf, and then the Strangled Thorns? The answer is you don't. You don't. You don't do it.
Not when you're this far behind. Perhaps if the fight went a little bit better for them, if they had gotten a bigger advantage in the laning phase, but neither of those options came out for them.
The goal doesn't say that they're this far behind. It's the way that the compositions look to fight towards each other. There is no way for Janair to look for a flank here. You don't have these crazy teleports or any follow-up that can realistically latch onto the backline. Now that flash isn't going to come back up for Mata, Pawn will have his again. There's so much that Janair need to do here. They have to go for the perfect Rakan engage with a perfect charge and somehow knock up all the members of KT that you would hope would be grouped. But there's a Banshee's Veil on Pawn as well. Here he goes, though. Vlad thinking about a flank, so they have the right idea, but KT recognizes and as such play to the side of the lane to make sure that nobody can enter.
Oftentimes when you're this far behind too, one of your options, as you were saying, is like the imperfect engage and then the follow-up, but really the major CC that they have is all on that Rakan, so they're really just hoping that he's able to charm like 4 members and they can burst someone quick enough, but again, Zhonya's on Smeb, Banshee's Veil on Pawn, and even QSS on Deft. I mean, a lot of these members are very tanky. They have a lot of escape ability. It's looking pretty grim, to say the least, here for Janair.
They did just get the Unleash power from Pawn, but it did force Umti's flash and his collateral damage on top of a recall, so it opens up some pressure for them as now chances of an engage being followed up by a Graves go from slim to none. So they have no qualms about rotating between mid and bottom while they wait for the bot lane mega creeps to crash the wave, and surely here will drop the inhibitor.
Okay, the charge in from Ixu, kind of just getting himself into danger. Unfortunately, does get popped off of Skarl. Really just a tool used to try to buy Janair some time. Not looking for the engage just yet.
Just throwing out cooldown, see what happens. Here's the next wave. Janair looking to commit 5 members to it. Defend this one with the skin of the teeth.
Kled heading back to the Nexus. And, I mean, if Teddy's allowed to get close enough to the wave, he's got decent wave clear. But I think once KT eventually gather the courage, or they find the right time, I should say, to go for that dive, they would. But it seems like they want to play it a little bit safer. I mean, we got... Oh, the Nexus turret just went down, but they got Baron in 30 seconds, so they're just going to play it safe.
They never have to go for a dive here, unless... I think the closest they'll commit is what we saw them do in the bot lane inhibitor, where they pop the equalizer to say, all right, if you want to run at us, you have to go through this, either retreat and give us the objective. So a commitment for a dive, especially with Baron coming up, as you say, would mean that if the dive were to go completely Janair's way, they could get a Baron and get a real chance at coming back in this matchup. However, recognizing the win condition, or the only opportunity that Janair has to get back into this game, is something that the top teams can do, and KT is one of the top teams now. I think that we can actually commit to saying, yeah, but can we get hyped for KT? I'm gonna say yes this time around.
Well, I mean, they can get a little bit hyped.
I'll get fully hyped.
Fully hyped?
Fully hyped.
They haven't played against SKT. They haven't played against Samsung. They lost to Longju 0-2. I mean, that was the first game where they're kind of just a little bit not used to the meta. They didn't look really
Don't kill my KT
all that
vibe.
Good. I'm trying to kill it pretty hardcore right now.
If you kill my KT vibe,
I'm still not convinced.
I won't get a KT phone. I'll get an SKT phone.
That's fine. Both of them are pretty solid, I hear. I've got KT myself. No bias. Hashtag no bias.
That's where it's coming from. We must have had poor customer support, and that's what's going on.
KT Internet is actually really good. Shout out to them. But here we go. Baron's coming up. I don't think Janair wants to get even close to this.
There's
okay, never mind.
Mountain Drakes here. This is going down.
Baron is done. Ixu TP's in and dashes away. And KT, I mean, they have all their cooldowns, and they're looking for the essentially counter engage. There it is. The equalizer going to come down. Umti very much all alone and scared. Not much of his team is going to be able to help him out. Ixu going 1v1 on the left side. Finally, it looks like Umti will be taking down Snowflower, trying to get that big engage, but there's just no follow-up. Finally, Kuzan joins on in, trying to go 1v5 himself. We'll see if it works out. The answer is no. Not able to get enough there, and now it's Teddy's turn. Nope, gonna be flashed away there from Pawn as Deft will pick up that final kill.
So close to at least taking down a member of KT. I think he lived with under 20 HP on Olaf, a guy that has about 3,000, so a lot of damage done onto him. However, that Baron will mean that KT is now pushing in for that inhibitor. They don't have enough time to end the game, although the teleport means that I think they're looking for it. It's 12 onto Graves. Yeah, they are going to have enough time.
Look at Mata just dealing with Ixu, not allowing him to recall. Ixu will try, but look at that. Double Mountain Drink. They're going to take down that turn immediately, and this will be game number 2, another 2-0 here for KT Rolster.
It's that low HP Olaf.